All right, I think it's going here. I'll let you know once it's up. Yeah, I don't do a lot of these lives either, so it's definitely different. All right, let's see if we are live yet.
Looks like you are.
Do you have the Facebook up? All right, let's see if we're up there. Yeah, I think we are. I'm on our page here to see if it's coming in. There we are. Okay, awesome. So what I wanted to do today so Rene, I'm going to introduce you to everyone since a lot of people will watch this after the fact. And also what I wanted to do was introduce to anyone who is watching this a good friend of mine, a mentor and advisor, Rene Rodriguez, who has joined us. And Rene is a national speaker. He is a sales coach. It's hard for me to even explain, Rene, what your business is besides speaking. Speaking's easy for everyone to understand, that you go and you speak to different companies, leadership groups. But can you tell anybody who's going to be watching this a little bit more about your business and how you help business leaders?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thanks for having me on. And it's good to always be doing this kind of stuff with you, and you're always pushing to do the next thing, which is fun. So I've been in this business for 23 years, where my background is in behavioral neuroscience, and so I looking at the thing we all have in common, which is our brain, but applying that knowledge around performance and understanding mindset to dealing with change, to influence in how our brain and how we utilize our potential towards things like change management, selling, leadership, influence, all of those different elements. And so, whether it's helping a group realize their sales potential and selling more and the behaviors that go with that, or whether it's helping a leader structure a conversation to get the most out of their team, or maybe it's helping a leader, somebody who wants to be in front of a room, structure their story in a way that drives behavior change and action. So it really kind of applies all of it. But then there's another side of me that does strategic planning. It's the boring side of what I do, but yet really super needed side of what I do, is how to get very focused on what the business is trying to achieve and aligning resources and everything towards that.
Yeah, so you do. And I can personally attest, and I will do that. What I'll do is at the end of the interview, I will post your website, which is crenespeak.com, where someone can book you for, let's say, an event. I also have personally attended your Amplify event, which was, I think, anyone who sees the feedback from Amplify is people say it's life-changing. And when somebody asks, like, what's it about? It's hard to explain, because a lot of us go, let's say, to an event to learn about, let's say, mortgages or about sales, right? And Amplify is a little different.
Very different. Very, very different. Yeah, I think Amplify is really about understanding what your message is, what you're trying to do, and then learning how to be the kind of person that can deliver it. It's not about just learning the delivery style, but it's looking and exploring internally how to be the person that can deliver that message, and then taking an honest look at some of the things that most of us don't want to look at, which is things like body language and the way we stand, the way we sit. I'm looking at myself in this, and I'm looking at, like, I'm leaning. Is this open too far? So I'm probably gonna have to, do this. Is this too comfortable? And what's the right look that we're looking for? I'm actually seeing myself fix this as we go here. So there we go. It looks like it's getting together.
Yeah, because you get on me all the time, but
all of those different elements.
Because when I went to Amplify, I had said, like, here's some things that I want to learn how to talk about, and everyone that first day just throws up the things that have happened and like how they sell to people, in their business. And by 2-3 days later, literally how you communicate is completely different.
Very different. Yeah. But the thing is that we know how to communicate, except when we get into a situation of wanting to achieve something or sell something or go on a date or whatever. Once that other sort of hidden agenda comes out, we for some reason change. And if we can go back to what it is that our authentic self would be and what we're trying to do and deliver a message in a way that comes from the heart, but yet in a sequence that the brain can receive it and understand it, that's the goal of what Amplify is about.
And Rene has a TED Talk that I also can link where he talks about, in case we don't get to that today, there's a lot to Rene that we could talk about, and the value he brings to individuals, groups. He is personally working with our sales team right now, and he has worked with my business partner and I for a year now, and it's just been amazing. Just the things you've taught us, and how I think as leaders, it's hard holding your teams, your groups, your kids accountable, and learning how to have those conversations on, I think accountability has been one of the biggest things.
Not easy. Definitely not easy.
No. And could you share a little bit about, a lot of small businesses right now, as COVID-19 hit, a lot of people's businesses literally shut their doors. What happened to your business when this all started?
It went away.
Your business literally just went away.
Just disappeared. Yeah. Well, I do, my speaking events all canceled. So I do close to 100 a year. And, I didn't want to accept that this was happening. In fact, I put this big post out saying, I'll fly as long as they'll have me. Well, they stopped having me. So I was dead. You can even see behind me my calendar. You kind of see it up at the top part. Here, this is all events you can see. And then here it's blank. And so, hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Are people not even booking? Is anybody booking at the end of the year?
There's a couple that have booked 2021, which is nice. I mean, here's the thing. The business is still there. It's just there in a different way. That's how I'm choosing to see it. And so am I going to be flying to an event? No, I've done about 30 of these types of things over the last 45 days. And so this is different. Am I charging for these things now? No, because it's a transition, and now is not the time to try and charge for that kind of stuff. Right now is the time to share gifts, share what you have, and do that. But even, will I ever charge for something like this? I don't know yet. I haven't figured that part of it out. And so this is a transition for all of us to try to figure it out. Will the events come back? Eventually they'll come back. Will they come back the same? I don't know. We're going to have to see, but that's not for me to worry about. For me, I've got to figure out, how do I continually add value in new ways? And if I'm teaching body language on a stage, I got to start teaching body language here. Am I utilizing this whole screen, or am I being, the person that speaks, but yeah, I'm really excited to be here. And all of a sudden now my influence has just been hurt because I've got all this extra space in the screen that is just not there, versus understanding that I've got to square up on that screen and use this and make sure that I line up that, because I want to look right here, but really I should be looking here. So I got to align my camera to that. So now I can do this. So this,
I'm looking right at the camera.
Yeah. It's set up, we're like, yeah, no, I'm totally involved here. If I were to put your face over there, I'd be looking at you, but you'd be looking at me here. A lot of new skills to be able to do that, and influence and customer connection and building trust all now transform into a new way that we have to figure out. So there's lots of things. I think you're going to see a lot of creativity come out of this. You're going to see a lot of innovation come out of it, because creativity and innovation come out of constraint. They don't come out of abundance. My mother once said, creativity isn't about using every color in the spectrum. Creativity is about having only 2 colors and working wonders with those colors. And so we're under constraint. So this is the prime time for creativity.
And so for anybody who's listening who owns a business, right? Like you said, you're kind of priming yourself for when things are going to open back up, and you're doing things. So if somebody is listening to this, watching it, and they have a business and their business has literally, their doors have shut, and you shared a little bit about getting creative, right? Yeah. The industry, we'll just use our industry, because you do work with a lot of people in real estate, mortgage, right? That whole arena.
Mm-hmm. I think you froze. Are you still there?
They can't be directly selling.
You froze in the last about 10 seconds. What was that again?
So what can people, oh, please.
You're back. You're good.
Okay. I said, what can they be doing right now? You said offering value, putting yourself out there. But for people who are so used to, I'll just use real estate agents, for example. So I know a lot of real estate agents in our area, they are not allowed to show homes, not even virtually. They can't sell, right? What can they be doing to move their business forward or to shift, pivot?
Here's the thing. It's going to change for everyone. And to me, you have to look at what you can control and what you can't control. And get past the cliche on that, because you're going to hear that a lot. And you have to ask yourself, well, so what the hell does that mean to me? Right. And let's look at an extreme example. If I can't show homes virtually, or if I can't show them in person or virtually anymore, well, what other skill sets are needed in this real estate world? What other skill sets that you've been ignoring are needed? Is it a time to claim your brand? Is it a time to then put out information? If I can't do that, then can I be a beacon of hope of what's going on? If you're in real estate, go follow Steve Harney in Keeping Current Matters. He is providing every single day. This man has devoted 45 days of his life, 2 hours of sleep a night, so that he could be a beacon of hope to turn the tide through information. He sent me a message last night at 2 a.m. and then again this morning at 6. I mean, he's not sleeping. That's because he wants to provide people like you information that we can do that. So that's something that you can do. Is it going to drive a sale right now? No, because it seems like you can't control that. But when this changes, because it will open up, it's not going to be like this forever. Who's going to be coming out of the gates running versus who's the ones that muscles are sore because they haven't been doing anything? They say, all right, well, now that we can sell again, let's start from zero. Versus you've been getting a running start for that. When that door opens, you're out there running and way ahead of the pack and taking market share. So you got to understand what you can and can't control, and we can't complain over the things that we can't control. We got to look at what we can. Skill sets need to be improved in real estate. Presentation needs to be improved. Communication with your database, cleaning up your CRM, getting marketing campaigns going, letters, phone calls, you name it. If you spent a month just doing that, the amount of business after that month is there. Now, if you weren't ready and you don't have the cash, that sucks. Guess what? Life teaches you lessons that may be your lesson. And then you got to go out and figure out how to make some money, make some phone calls, and buy some time. So it's just, those are things that you got to take into reality. And there is no great entrepreneurial story that doesn't include, I lost all my shit at one point. I lost it all and I figured it out. But so there isn't any way around it. Wherever you find yourself on that spectrum, figure out what you can control and double down on that.
And you talk about that a lot on your Facebook page. You have a series, the Lighthouse Series, that was really good about that, because most people right now through this are scared, right?
Yeah.
They're scared. Can they keep their business open? Can they, and let's say you can't sell. For the businesses that can sell, let's say maybe in a different scale, like our business, we're not getting, let's say, new contracts because nobody's selling homes. But you have worked with us, and can you talk a little bit about the 6 money-making activities for businesses that sell anything and what they can be doing that way?
Yeah. Well, so what I learned 18 years old. How many years ago was that? It's a lot of years ago. I'm 44 now.
18 years ago?
Yeah, that was a long time ago. No, it was more than 18 years ago, but I was 18 years old. And when I first got into selling cookware, my mentor told me that there's only 6 ways that you make money in sales, and the anything you do.
And this is for anybody selling anything.
For anybody, there's only 6 ways you make money, and when you're selling a direct sale product, right? This is just an overarching view of the sales process. Is you have to prospect. That's number 1. Set appointments, because how else are you going to get to the place to present value, which is 3. So prospect, set appointments, present value. So you close a deal, and then you do aftercare, which is deliver on what you promised, and then get referrals. Those 6 create the sales process. And so can you prospect right now? Can you go out there, even if you can't sell, can you go out there and talk to people, build relationships and add value, generate leads of people that are interested? Absolutely. One of the most valuable things that you could do. If your presentation sucks, what a great time to start practicing your presentation. If you got the time, use it wisely. So prospecting, setting appointments, I would be setting appointments all day long to be on the phone with prospects. I'd use tools. If you're in mortgage, use tools like Mortgage Coach so that you can dissect a total cost analysis of what happens in a rent versus own and all sorts of things, and practice and hone those skill sets. Get on the Facebook groups and the trainings that people are doing that for. All of those different things are things that you can still do right now. Hone your marketing skills. If you're in real estate, start doing mailers, start sending letters, start making phone calls, do whatever it is you can to get in front of people.
And just help people in a different way, right?
Yes.
Providing value about information. An example, just something, because I went through the same thing. I was freaking out at first when this all went down. I was nervous, scared, the knee-jerk reaction, which you talk about. And okay, I'm good at tax returns and income things because I have an accounting background, and not that it's something. So, getting on last week, we talked about the PPP and the PPP loan program. So getting on, because I knew a lot of people, that real estate agents, a lot of people who are self-employed, I knew they would need that information, right? Doesn't do anything for my business. So things like that.
But you became a resource.
If you're closed.
But you took your skill and you became a resource. I mean, that is hugely valuable. I had another friend of mine call me and walk me through some things that they understood that I didn't. And they called me 4 times. Did you do this yet? Did you do this yet? And finally, the 4th time I went out and did it, and I was like, oh man, thank you. I mean, but that was a relentless pursuit of delivering value, because most people, and I'll tell you this, buyers are procrastinators. Okay. Your audience is full of procrastinators, people that have things they know they should do, but they keep pushing it off. Mm-hmm. And if you ask one time and they don't do it, and they go, well, I tried one time. I said, you're not doing it enough. This guy called me 4 times, and finally I did it in the 4th time. And I'm like, thank you for pushing me. Doesn't matter where we all put off shit that we need to do. And can you be the one to get them to push them over the top? That would be what sets you apart.
And I think so with my sales team once, I told them I was getting like a home audio system put in my house. Same thing happened, and I wanted it, right? Yeah. And I got a quote, and then it's a friend of mine. I think he had to text me 6 times, and I finally was like, thank you. Yeah. Same thing. Like, thank you. I needed you to come over here. But so many salespeople, they don't like to prospect. Why don't they like to prospect?
Well, I think that it usually comes from a good place. They don't want to be seen as pushy, right? And so here's the story I'll tell you for that. Is you have to believe in your product enough to care enough to be unreasonable. So what do I mean by that? There's a great story in fact, I'll tell you mine. It was my chiropractor when I was 19, 20 years old. I was in a sales slump, and I went to my chiropractor, which chiropractors are great sources of sales skills because they're very well-trained salespeople. And
they are.
Oh, incredibly well-trained. And so he's cracking my back, and he's like, how's business going? I'm like, oh, it's not good. He's like, why? Crack. And I'm like, I'm just in a sales slump. And he's like, really? Crack. And he goes, well, do you, let me ask you questions. So, okay. I'm like, yeah, ask me some questions. He goes, do you like your product? I'm like, oh man, Crack. It's like, it's amazing. It's like, you can cook your meats without any oil. You can make your vegetables without any water, retain 98% of the vitamins and minerals. I mean, I just raved about the product. And he's like, really? I mean, that's amazing. And I'm like, yeah, Crack again. And he's like, do you care about your clients? I'm like, well, of course I do. He goes, no, come on, Rene, it's just me. Talk to me, level with me. Do you really care? And I'm like, oh my God, yeah, I've helped families that are struggling with cancer, and I raved about how I just love what I do, the product and helping people. And he stopped. He sat back and he sighed. And it immediately caught my attention. I looked it up, I sat up, I'm like, what's wrong? He goes, Rene, I got to tell you, man, I'm offended. And I was like, what are you offended for? What are you talking about, offended? He said, you said that you have this amazing product. It does all these amazing things. And you also told me that you care about your clients, but you've never asked me to buy. Do I not fit into somebody that you care about? And do you don't think I might want some of the benefits that you shared? And it was like one of those things, it was like throwing cold water on my face of like, because I never looked at it that way. And he said, Rene, sometimes you got to learn to care enough to be unreasonable. If you care about what you do, and you know it's going to be helpful, and you know people are going to procrastinate, and you know they're going to continually put it off, do you care enough to deliver your product. And if you don't care enough about your product, then maybe you're selling the wrong product. And it was one of those things I'll never forget. I had a friend of mine that tells the same similar story about he sold long-term healthcare insurance, and he went to his friend's family's house, and his father was just diagnosed with this illness. And he goes, the moment he heard that was going to happen, he said his heart sunk to the floor because he knew it was going to happen. His friend got so excited, says, Mom, Dad, Scott sells this insurance, right? He can solve it. Whole family looks at Scott and says, Scott, you got something for us? And he had to say the most difficult thing, which was it's actually would have had to been in place prior to diagnosis. And the father looks at him and says, so were you waiting for something like this to happen before you told me about it? And it was in that moment that he said, either I sell something that I wholeheartedly believe in to tell my friends and family about, or I'm in the wrong business. Because had he cared enough and pushed a little bit to get that family in place, they would have had this amazing solution. But he didn't. So he failed them. That is what salespeople need to realize, especially in housing. In 10 years, all your clients are going to either say one or two things to you. Hey, thank you for getting me in the business and getting me in the wealth building game 10 years ago. Or 10 years from now, they're going to go, why didn't you tell me this opportunity existed 10 years ago? Which side of the table do you want to have? Which conversation do you want to have? Those are internal dialogues, internal philosophies that you got to believe in that turn into a mindset and turn into behavior on a daily basis.
And yeah, you're so right, because it's the same, Andre, my business partner, and I talk about that, how much we enjoy helping families, especially in us being a broker with all these banks. We can help a lot of people that can't normally get in homes. And I truly feel like we have things that help families, and then we'll get calls, and you have to believe in it. Whereas newer people, how do they start getting into that mindset? How do they start feeling like, okay, I'm not selling and I'm helping? Because I see that like with new people, that they struggle because they know that they need that, like they're trying to sell their first this or their first that. Even after a year, like, is there techniques to start getting into that shift of helping people and offering value versus just selling something?
Yeah. It's a tough one, but it's a critical piece to be able to master.
And then the last piece that I was going to ask you about while I brought it up, because it's part of I think the sequencing, and I'll let you kind of share, but I've seen you speak a few times, and for anyone listening that sells, and you have a different way of teaching people how to communicate, right? That there's a sequence to it, and there's one question you ask all the time, and it's not really mine to share, and I don't know if there's an easy way to share it on a live over 5, 6, 7 minutes. So if I was to ask you, Rene, and what's your favorite color, for example?
Well, as you know, I was born in Miami, Florida, and moved to Minnesota, as I'm looking at snow right now, when I was about 7 years old, but lived half-time Miami, half-time in Minnesota till I was the age of about 16. And so I never really felt at home, except if I was in one place. If I was on a beach and I saw palm trees, I knew it was close to my friends, my family, my food, my music, my culture. And that's where I was happiest. And palm trees are green, so my favorite color is green.
And so, I asked you that specific question, and I can't ask it to anyone else right now, unless there's somebody who wants to volunteer. But could you explain what you just did for anyone listening? Because now that I know this, right, now that I understand how you teach, because I think about, if somebody called me before, or they call a loan officer, because this applies to any question, right?
Yeah.
What's the rate? Is there a house that's a ranch with 4 bedrooms if you're a real estate agent? What is it that you just showed us?
So what happens is that we have there's an interesting phenomenon when it comes to questions, is that we feel the need that we have to answer the question. And if we know that one, we have this internal immediate response to feel like we have to answer the question, we never really question, is the question the right question? If somebody comes to you and says, what's your rate or what's your commission? Is that really the right question to begin with? Because it's what's the cost of this right away, where instead of what's the value of what's going on. So anytime somebody comes at you with a question, one of the things we train people is that we got to stop answering the questions that are asked of us, because two things happen. One is the question dictates the direction of the conversation. So whoever's asking the question is in charge. But if you add a third component to that, which is most people don't put much thought into the questions that they ask. They just ask questions. Like, you ever ask somebody, how they're doing, and they answer, and you really weren't expecting an answer. You're like, oh God, why did I ask? Right? It was just kind of this habitual thing. Hey, how's it going? I'm good. Well, actually, you know what? And I just got my wedding pictures back. Do you want to see all? You're like, no, I really don't, because I really wasn't interested. And so you got a little guest in the background.
Oh, he took a break from Minecraft.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And, so you look at this whole phenomenon of these questions. You asked me what my favorite color was. I could have just said green. And that would have added zero value to our conversation. It wouldn't have connected us anymore. But what I did is I chose to answer the question in a certain sequence that connected us a little bit more, told you a little bit more about me, and allowed me to share some of my message. So instead of saying the color's green, I went back and created a frame by saying that I was born in Miami and I lived in Minnesota half time. So I kind of told you a little bit that I journeyed. I come from Miami. I never felt at home. I was between two cities that are very polar opposite. And then, but if I was on the beach, I loved my music, probably Cuban since you're Miami, Latin food and Spanish and all that stuff. So you're learning about me through this question of color, but it gave meaning to the color because it made me feel at home, and green made me feel at home, and palm trees. If you like palm trees and beaches and Latin food too, we've already connected now. Mm-hmm. It's my favorite color is green. And so any of those elements, if I would just say green, none of that other stuff would have happened. And so I use that example as just a real basic one of a stupid question to generate a very much more rich response. So it's a difference. Somebody says, what's your rate? And you say it's X%. Well, then that person has already written you off saying, okay, so I got that number. Let me go call the next person and compare, is it higher or lower? That's a dangerous position to be in. One, it's also not honest, because that interest rates fluctuate on a daily basis. And if you answer them, you'd say, well, the current interest rate right now that I quote you is something that's going to change by the time we actually get there. And so there's a lot of things. You can go into the whole explanation of what's going on, which is a much more honest conversation. And you're actually a master of it. You don't even talk about rate. You talk about what's the payment and plan, which is actually the real conversation.
Yeah. And I think for me, it kind of happened just over 15 years now, using what I do, right? And now learning from you, because we all get asked questions from customers all day long. And we all know it's important to tell our stories. It's important to talk about our values and why we do what we do, but it's hard to figure out how do you even do that? But when people ask you questions, a simple question, that's where you can start sharing what's important to you, your message, who you are, asking them questions back, and it actually will improve your sales and your business. Absolutely.
Yeah. But the TED Talk actually that you mentioned before goes through that actual sequence. And I'm probably going to be adding one of these. I want to add the right way to the Lighthouse Series, a video on this. But one thing I didn't tell people is that when they do sign up for the Lighthouse Series, they get 24 other videos, and 3 of which go into this process around.
So where can people find that, since we'll be wrapping up here shortly? And where can I make sure the link, where is this Lighthouse Series? Anybody can go and watch the video?
Anyone can go. It's actually, I designed it for family as well. It's something, because this is a time that families need to be able to understand the frame of what's going on. It gives them, the parents, a way to talk to their kids about what's happening as well. But it's under if you go to my website, see Rene Speak, SEE Rene RENE speak.com/lighthouse. It's there, and they're all free. I don't know if you froze there.
Because this is some of your best videos. Okay, there. This is something that you've taken some of your best messages, correct? Your best videos. And can you maybe just give an overview of what's in the Lighthouse Series and how it would benefit anyone?
It went through from understanding. The first video was just understanding where, and giving people a tool to understand where their energy level is at during times of crisis and stress. And so what happens is a lot of times there are things that either contribute to our energy, energize us, that person that they call you and all of a sudden you get super excited. But I think we're familiar with that person. They call you, you look at the caller ID and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I don't want to get it, right? They drain your energy because it's what we call below the line. So we talk about this thing called the courage scale. And it's a really simple tool. In fact, I end up having one here on my desk that tells people what's happening above the line, what's happening below the line. And they can even download a visual of it. It's all free. And it gives them an understanding of where they're at from an energy perspective. And the second video is the neuroscience of corona behavior. So meaning, how do we understand what's happening in the brain and the irrationality and the alarmists to the people that are preaching the end of the world, to the ones that are inspiring? What is it and how do we go through that? And it gives you a very simple model to understand what we're going through. And then we move into a call to action for salespeople, which is the 6 money-making activities, what we call PAPCAR. And how do we then say, okay, if we understand our mindset, we understand what's happening neurologically, well, what do we do now? And how do we go out there and sell? Fourth video was on innovation. How do we start thinking outside the box and thinking differently on what's happening? And so we've got a couple other videos that have followed after that as well.
Wonderful. So I will make sure that I link your website in here so people can go and sign up for that, because I know how much it's helped our team. I know how much it's helped Andre and I think anyone who leads a family, a team, a company could benefit from that. And then they could find out more about having you speak or going to Amplify for anyone who presents, who speaks, I can't express enough how valuable it was. And it's difficult for me to explain it. And I know we did in the beginning, but it's about learning how to communicate the things and have influence.
It's a hard one. I think you're frozen again. Oops, I think you're frozen. It's coming back though. I'll tell you when you're back. Hang in there, guys. Okay, you're back.
I'm back. Sorry, I was going to say thank you. No, so I really appreciate you coming on here. This is only our second for small businesses and leaders to come in and hear a message, but I thought there wouldn't be a better person than you to come on and help give anyone, kind of just struggling at all or trying to figure things out. I think that you just talking and then the resources that they could go check out could really help them.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate everything you're doing. I always appreciate you including me here. You guys are amazing resources to your clients and to everyone else too. So keep doing what you're doing, keep pushing. And I love what you're doing with your team. I mean, you guys are so committed as leaders to have your meetings every single day, the culture things that you guys do from themes of the week. And it's just, I think you guys got to continue sharing that because there's such creative ideas that other people can learn from.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's been a fun ride, fun journey. So
awesome.
All right. I will talk to you soon.
Absolutely.
Thank you for anyone who joined on. And I will, if I missed any questions, because I get talking here, I will make sure that I message in the comments and I will, it looks like I already have my team on. They put your website there. So you already have access to Renee's website. So you can go and sign up for the Lighthouse Series.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thanks, Meg.
All right. Thanks, Renee.
See you guys.
All right. Bye.
Bye.